What if a small nation's fight for freedom reshaped the world's greatest powers? Vietnam's story isn't just about a war that scarred millions. It's about a people who defied empires. From ancient invaders to modern superpowers, and a surprising player in the conflict, Australia. This isn't your typical history lesson. We're diving into Vietnam's epic saga and whispers of recent speculations that still ripple through Vietnam's streets today. Picture a land of emerald rice paddies and misty mountains, where a people fought tooth and nail to carve out their identity. Over 2,000 years ago, the Hung Kings laid the foundation for Vietnam, a fledgling nation under constant threat. By 111 BC, the mighty Chinese Han dynasty swept in, swallowing Vietnam for nearly a millennium. Heroes like the Trung sisters, two fierce women who led a rebellion in 40 AD, became legends, wielding swords against Chinese overlords. Fast forward to the 10th century, and Vietnam finally broke free, with Ngo Khien's victory at the Bac Dang River in 938 AD. A masterstroke where he used iron-tipped stakes to sink Chinese ships. This wasn't just a battle, it was a statement. By the 19th century, Vietnam's lush fields were bleeding under French rule. The French didn't just conquer, they drained Vietnam's resources. The air was thick with resentment, and by the early 20th century, a young man named Ho Chi Minh emerged, his eyes set on freedom. When Japan invaded during World War II, briefly kicking out the French, Ho saw his chance. He formed the Viet Minh, a guerrilla force that fought both Japanese occupiers and French colonial dreams. By 1945, Japan's defeat left a power vacuum, and Ho declared independence in Hanoi, quoting America's own Declaration of Independence. But the French weren't done. They came back, claws out, setting the stage for a brutal showdown. Over 3 million lives were lost in a war that tore Vietnam apart, numbers so staggering they're hard to grasp. After the 1954 Geneva Accords split Vietnam into a communist north and a shaky south, the stage was set for chaos. The U.S., terrified of the domino theory, that one communist victory would topple Southeast Asia like dominoes, poured in advisors, then troops. Did you know the Viet Cong's tunnels stretched for miles, hiding entire armies? In 1962, Australia sent just 30 military advisors to Vietnam, a quiet start to what became a decade-long saga. By 1965, Prime Minister Robert Menzies upped the ante, sending 7,672 troops at the war's peak in 1969. These weren't all volunteers, conscription, a lottery picking young men by birth date. The Battle of Long Tan in 1966 was Australia's bloodiest. 100 soldiers faced 2,000 enemies, holding their ground in pouring rain. Australia's efforts in Phuoc Tuy province restored some control for the south, but at a cost. 521 Australians died, 3,000 were wounded. Did you know South Korea sent over 300,000 troops to Vietnam, more than any U.S. ally except America itself? Thailand sent 40,000 troops, New Zealand 3,000, and even the Philippines chipped in, all part of the U.S. S Many Flags program. On the flip side, China and the Soviet Union armed the North, with China sending manpower and the Soviets ramping up weapons. The Phoenix program, where some Australian advisors worked, stirred whispers of moral lines crossed, targeting Viet Cong with tactics that still spark debate. In 1970, 200,000 Australians flooded the streets, from Melbourne to Sydney, demanding an end to the war. Conscientious objectors faced jail, their arrests splashed across newspapers, turning public opinion against the government. By 1972, Whitlam's government pulled the last advisors out, and by 1973, Australia was done. The war left scars. Veterans returned to hostility, not heroes' welcomes, grappling with trauma. Could Vietnam, once a Cold War battleground, now be a key player in countering China's rise? In 2023, the U.S. and Vietnam forged a comprehensive strategic partnership. After decades of enmity, Vietnam's cozying up to its former foe, hosting American tourists and sending students to U.S. universities. The war's legacy lingers in Vietnam's silence about Southern victims, those who supported Saigon and faced discrimination after 1975. Others point to the Vietnamese diaspora in Australia and the U.S., wondering if they could bridge gaps or stir tensions over unhealed wounds. Vietnam's story is a saga of defiance, from the Trung sisters battling Chinese overlords to Ho Chi Minh's guerrillas outwitting global powers. The Vietnam War, costing over 3 million lives, wasn't just a local fight. It pulled in nations like Australia, which sent 60,000 troops. Today, Vietnam stands at a crossroads, balancing ties with former enemies and navigating a tense Indo-Pacific. Will its history of resilience define its future, or will old wounds hold it back? Share this video with friends who love history, comment your biggest takeaway, and subscribe for more untold stories.